21, excuse me, your lab number 21 contained in States 418 at this point for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I recognize it as the lab item number 20.
And what is lab item number 20?
It was a brown paper bag containing one pair of green cargo shorts.
And also contained in 418, lab number 21. Can you tell me if you recognize that?
Yes, sir. It's lab number, or item number for this case, 19, which was a brown paper bag containing one white T-shirt.
Okay. Now, Jim. You're on all 418 without objection.
Without objection.
Admit it.
I'm going to show you what time purpose. Thank you, Your Honor. Sorry. I'm going to ask you, please, ma'am, this is a question. Look at 423, 424, and 425. Do you recognize these, and do they relate to what you're talking about right now?
Yes, sir. These are PGSR collection worksheets from clothing that I generate during my process of collecting from inanimate objects.
Okay. Inanimate objects.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, let's start with the shirt, 423.
Yes,
What's
sir.
in evidence? Tell these folks what you did with the shirt.
So anytime we're processing clothing or an inanimate object in the lab, we start by making sure everything's been thoroughly cleaned, and we also place down parchment paper to just as an extra check and balance to make sure there's nothing contaminating the evidence. We also place what we call a clothing blank out onto the table where we are processing. That's just another one of those double-sided adhesive stubs, and it's left open and exposed to the environment to make sure there's no contamination in the environment. That's how I start all of my clothing. Then I confirm that everything is adequately sealed and documented, and I open my items and lay them out on the parchment paper. I photograph items, and then I do label those items for identification later if needed. And then I will sample the clothing item closest, in the areas that would be closest to the discharge of the firearm. So in this case, we're talking about a T-shirt. So I will sample the right chest and sleeve area together and the left chest and left sleeve together. So if you want to draw a line down your midline for right and left, and then we typically go down to just below the chest area.
And is that what you do with every shirt?
Yes, sir. If it's a long sleeve garment, I would typically use a separate particle lift for the chest area and the arms, just because the adhesive doesn't last quite as long.
And if you said this, I apologize, I'm tired. Why are you doing those areas?
It's closest to the discharge of a firearm.
Potential discharge, so that's where you test it.
Yes, sir.
Well, looking at the shirt, look 418, the shirt that's contained in here. Which one's the shirt?
19.
19?
Yes, sir.
Before you get to doing the particle list, what's the first thing you do?
I confirm what the item is and that it's properly sealed and initialed.
Do you open it?
After I clean, I open it. Yes, sir.
And do you make observations of items when you first open it?
Yes, sir. Anything that seems out of the ordinary for any item is documented on the worksheet in the comments section.
And you have a comment section. That's where you put your thoughts, right?
Yes, sir. Anything that may, again, be out of the ordinary or affect the analysis later.
And just to go back, You go down a bit, yeah. So this is right sleeve, right chest, left sleeve, left chest. Hanes beefy shirt, right? Here, you go down a little bit.
Your Honor, I don't have any objection to it.
Introducing 423 into evidence. I don't think it's in evidence yet, but no objection.
We offered it a little while ago without objection. 423, 24, 25.
I have no objection to those three exhibits going in.
I thought I'd said that. If I didn't, I apologize. Is this a Hanes beefy t-shirt?
Yes, sir, it was.
And item 19.1. What are your comments underneath there?
Small reddish-brown stains observed. Shirt had an odor of laundry detergent.
What do you mean by that, an odor of laundry detergent?
It just smelled freshly laundered, which is not typical of the lab. Typically, clothing smells slightly musky when we get it.
And you examined this shirt when?
On June 8th of 2021.
Now, you didn't know, did you have any knowledge about this case whatsoever?
I just knew that we had asked to make it a priority in the lab.
And you attempted to collect particle lists from that shirt?
I did collect particle lists from the shirt, yes, sir.
Next, states 425. Sorry, we're out of order here. This is also your clothing worksheet?
Can I see the top of that sheet? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, sir.
And what was this that you examined?
This was the worksheet we generated when we collected from a seat belt that was collected from a 2021 Chevy Suburban, South Carolina, tag CZL420.
And I think we have it marked for ID only. Do you recognize this? Strike that, I'm sorry. The seatbelt states 100. Thank you to everybody. States 100. Can you look at this and see if you haven't examined that before? Does it relate to your testimony?
Yes, sir. This was SLED item number 142, and it also has my date and initials on it as well.
All right, what did you do with states 100?
At the direction of the analyst, Megan Fletcher, I collected samples from various areas on the seatbelt.
And can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, how did you determine where you were going to collect samples?
Since this was not our typical item, I collected from areas in which Megan instructed me to collect.
Which was where?
We collected from the buckle, 3 different areas of the belt, and the latch plate.
Can you show the jury where you collected?
Yeah. So this, I believe, was what we called the latch plate.
Okay.
Sorry if I'm misspeaking on that, but and then the buckle was. Oh gosh. This area here, and we did the top and bottom of it. And the 3 sections were just, we measured the length for each section, did a section, rolled more out, and did the next section.
And how were you actually doing it with the particle lifts? How were you collecting that?
So, as stated before, the particle lifts have a double-sided adhesive on it, and you just repeatedly dab that across the garment or the item that you're collecting until it loses its adhesive abilities.
100, we'd offer, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you. And looking back on the sheet this noted here, that's where you went through and did your inventory sheet, correct?
Yes, sir.
And this is to document you did what you did, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you also have an occasion to examine the pants in this case? It's already, I believe, in evidence.
I did collect from some cargo shorts.
And And those were also included on what I just took down off the Elmo, but can you tell the folks where you collected or tried to collect lifts off the cargo shorts and why you collected in those areas?
Yes, sir. For any type of pants or shorts, we always collect from the right groin and the left groin area. Again, that's the area that's closest to the discharge of a firearm.
And that's standard, that's what you do.
That is standard practice.
Now, did you... without objection, Your Honor.
Is that correct, Mr. Griffin?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that noted?
Would you mind opening up for, first of all, do you know whether or not you examined a pair of shoes in this case?
I did, and these are the shoes sled item number 21.
Okay. Would you please open that for the ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of stuff on it. I use gloves.
Sure. Yes, ma'am. Before you cutting that, do you see JEH on here?
Yes, sir, I do. On 6/8/21, I signed my initials.
So what is all that right there?
I believe it's yard debris.
Court permissions to dump this right here, or can I get a trash can?
Give a trash can. Okay, trash can.
These are states 419 in without objection. Can you show these to the jury?
Sir.
Show the jury what you, I'll hold them. Show the jury what you,
So with shoes, when we collect from them, we're going to collect again to the area that would be closest to the discharge of the firearm, so the front of the shoe. So in this case, I would do the area where the laces would typically be and the front toe. Depending on how well the adhesive continues, it will depend on how far back I go, but I start with the toe and then work my area down the sides.
is this the condition they were when you saw them on June 8th, 2021?
There was more grassy type material on them when I had them.
Okay. And what I just dumped in the trash can with the court's permission and in here, did you indicate on your comment section
Yes.
whether or not yard debris was present?
Yes, sir. I commented that shoes were wet with yard debris present.
Wet with yard debris.
Yes, sir.
Did you, on June 8th now, go back in your mind, when you saw these, in addition to wet and yard debris, did you make any other notes in the comment section about those shoes?
I did not.
Do you remember, did you see anything that looked like blood?
I did not make any note of that. No, sir.
With your naked eye?
No, sir.
Top or bottom?
No, sir.
Okay. did you have any other items that you examined that were presented to you for examination either by yourself or with Megan Fletcher?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
It was sled item number 173, and it was, we described it as one blue rain jacket / poncho.
Okay. And was this the same? No. When did you examine the poncho?
I believe we began on October 5th, 2021.
Okay. So is it fair to say that the clothes, the shirt, the pants, and the shoes were on June 8th of 2021?
Let me check my notes. Yes, sir, that's correct. June 8th of 2021.
And I didn't ask you this, and I apologize. When did you examine the belt, the seat belt?
The seatbelt was examined on September 1st, 2021.
And again, the specific date for the raincoat was what?
October 5th, 2021.
And tell the ladies and gentlemen, take us to the lab now. How did you examine that garment, the rain jacket?
This was also not our typical garment, and I believe there was some information provided from investigations. So everything I did in this case was at the direct, or in this for this particular item was at the direct supervision of Megan Fletcher. She essentially told me where she would like me to collect, and she documented everything on the note sheet while I physically collected the particle list. Without objection.
Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
They're admitted.
And Your Honor, 421 are the particle lists from the rain jacket, and I believe there's no objection except the objection they made previously. No additional objection, 421.
They're admitted.
So let me go back in time real quick. Are these the particle lifts you took from the seatbelt? 427?
Yes, sir. My initials are also on each individual stub.
And that's sort of like the officer has in the scene. You're now doing it in the lab, taking particle lifts, correct?
Correct.
And particle lists from 420 lists from 19, 20, and 21, which I think are the pants, the shirt, and the shoes. Were these the particle lists from 420 that you actually took?
Yes, sir.
Again, in the twos.
Yes, sir.
And your initials is on.
Yes, sir.
Now, 421, you said it was a little different, unusual. How did you take the particle list on this rain jacket?
I believe everything was considered in Megan's custody while I was doing the collection, and then it was transferred directly to my custody when I carbon coated the particle lifts. That's just a process where a thin layer of carbon is added. It allows the analyst to get better images on the instrument. It doesn't do anything to add or remove GSR. It just simply adds a very thin layer of carbon. So it was in my custody at that time, but prior to that, it was in Megan's custody.
Okay. Show you what's marked as 226. Is this the rain jacket that you were describing?
If I can check the bottom cuff. Yes, sir. The date and my initials are here in the bottom cuff.
So you looked at this rain jacket,
Yes, sir, I did.
and Megan Fletcher was with you.
Yes, sir.
And tell the ladies and gentlemen, how did you process? Where did you attempt to get particle lists?
Basically, the entire garment. We marked it off in different sections, again, where Megan advised me to collect from, and I repeatedly dabbed the particle lift across each section until it lost adhesive.
These particle lists?
Yes, sir.
You dabbed each of one of these?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what are these little things on here? These tape or the...
I'm not sure what those are.
Now, you did the outside of this garment.
Correct.
Did you do anything else to it?
We also sampled the inside of this garment as well.
So you actually turned it inside out and took samples from the inside.
That's correct.
Okay. Megan Fletcher was with you.
Yes, sir.
What about the hood? Did you test it or take samples from the outside of the hood?
Yes, sir, we did.
Did you take samples from the inside of the hood?
Yes, sir, we did.
Sorry, yeah. Had the court's indulgence. I'm not wearing gloves here now, but when you're examining all of these items, do you wear gloves?
Yes, sir.
Does Megan Fletcher, did she wear gloves?
Yes, sir.
Why?
To make sure we're not contaminating it, as well as to protect ourselves from anything that may be on the garment.
And as far as the to not contaminate it, you don't want to put anything of you on that garment.
Correct. It's standard practice for us to wear a lab coat, gloves, and if it's going to be processed for DNA later, we also wear a mask.
And is that in a controlled environment when you attempt to get these particles?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Judge. That's all.
Man of the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. That's 423.
Oh, here they are. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Ms. Hall.
Good afternoon.
You said if you're going to do DNA testing, you wear a mask.
Yes, sir.
Did you wear a mask?
Yes, sir, I did.
So, to your knowledge, were some of these items processed for DNA after the GSR processing?
It was my understanding that they had the potential for DNA analysis. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, let's just talk about how you go about sampling for GSR. And you talked about the shirt, and you said you would do the chest and sleeve on either side. How does that work? Do you lay the shirt out on a table?
Yes, sir. So as I stated, the table is thoroughly cleaned, and then we place down parchment paper as well, sterile parchment paper, and lay the garment out on that so that we can access all the areas.
And for the shirt here, I think it's item 19, did you just check on the two areas at the top on the chest side?
Yes, sir. Unless we're given information from the investigative team or from an officer who submitted it that there's potentially a reason to test somewhere else, we only test the chest and sleeve area because that's the area that would be closest to the discharge of a firearm.
And that's what you're looking for is, do you call it gunshot residue, is that right?
Yes, sir. It's microscopic, so you cannot see it. Therefore, we're testing the areas where we would expect to find it.
And you would expect to find gunshot residue on the shoulders of a person who had recently shot a gun, I would take it.